Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How you doing? I hope you're good and appreciate you joining me as we welcome a cat who's been my guest twice before, including talking story about the Led Zeppelin reunion just after we were both lucky enough to see it. He's got a huge schedule, as usual, on tour with one of rock's great American bands. There's no question about that. We'll hear about their upcoming Honolulu date at the Blaisdell Concert Hall, on sale now. It's October 9th. And hopefully share fun stories and memories with someone it is a pleasure to speak with again, Styx guitarist, sometime vocalist, James Young. Aloha, JY.
How are we doing, Dave?
Good to talk to you, brother. Big mahalo for taking some time for me.
Yes, indeed. My pleasure.
You get the CD and DVD the other day from Terry?
I did get them. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but thank you very much.
Apologize for the delay, but good timing that you just did get them.
Yeah.
And in the midst of the big tour with the band Boston, right? That's who you're out with this year.
Yeah, that's, at this stage of a classic rock band's career, it's hard to really have new hit songs captivate the youth market, but what we've found is, at least in the summertime, it's great to put together, an REO Speedwagon or a Journey Styx REO Speedwagon or Styx Bad Company or Styx Peter Frampton or Def Leppard Styx Foreigner like it was last year. And then this year, Boston, who doesn't go out very much, it's a great two-act show. And as you can tell, we like dating other bands, as I say. So we're just having a great time out with Tom Scholes and the gang, who haven't been out on the road in 4 years. And it's a great two-act show, and we're selling out virtually everywhere we go, which is a fantastic thing. And there's still just a huge demand, obviously, for classic rock. And in fact, in L.A. the other night, we had our old buddy
Adam Sandler.
He's really our new buddy, but Adam Sandler came out to the concert, and it was fantastic. At
StyxWorld.com, they already have the pictures up. People should go take a look at them. There's a link here at my site, and a very cool thing. I was checking that out, and he's been a fan of yours and has been referencing the band and when he does interviews too. I mean, I remember a long time ago he was talking on a show that I was a part of with Mark Perreno in Boston, and when he was talking about bands that he loved, and this is like 96, 97, he was giving you such major praise.
Well, the irony is that I'd never met the man until a year ago. Tommy had run into him on the streets of New York at some point, but a few years ago. But in reality, I mean, this was all. Adam was sort of our fan from afar, and we had to say yes to him using our music in his movies. And maybe that's a hard thing for someone to ask and potentially be turned down for.
Sure.
But through third parties, we said by all means. I mean, Billy Madison, which is his first feature, used "Renegade," which I think is one of his favorite songs, and so that's going back to 1995, and then Big Daddy was 99, and there's 3 songs of ours in there, and the dialogue mentioning how great the band is, and Tommy Shaw is mentioned by name. It's, so him and the Chris Daughtry's of the world, who and a host of others who take the light that's shining on them and shine it back on us. So reminding, or actually maybe allowing a third generation of fans to become aware of, some of the cool stuff we had done in the past, and the next thing you know, a large minority of our audience is people, I would say, under the age of 25.
It's a wonderful transformation, and you've learned how to sum it up into a soundbite really well. Congrats on that.
Well, I do a lot of interviews, and let's hope I'm getting a little bit more cogent and colorful with the way I do it. So.
Yes, and I'm impressed as usual. How far back do you go with Tom Scholes?
About 3 months.
That's it.
Well, no, I mean, in reality. Boston sort of broke out in a big way in 1976, and we'd been with their first album, which is ultimately, I think, sold about 18 million copies. We had, by that time, made 6 records, and we're starting to, actually finally get some traction, and had opened one charity show at the Omni in Atlanta for them back in early December of 76. But then we didn't see hide nor hair of them until we did another show. It was like a 6-act radio show in L.A., 4 years ago, Aerofest 2004 4. So I mean, we've only played with Boston twice before this tour here, and I had at one point in time actually called up a guy who used to manage me, who then was managing Boston. This is going back to '99 or 2000, and suggested, that I thought, hey, I think it'd be a great thing. We're out doing really well, and but Tom is, he's sort of the reclusive genius, and
big time.
And I think he only leaves the house when he's good and ready to do so. And well, hey, he's entitled to it. The guy.
God bless him, man. No, totally.
I don't criticize him for that at all. I mean, it's.
Is he fun to become? What is it like being around Tom? I mean, you've only then met him a few months ago. What was it like when you first met him? Describe it then.
Well, quite frankly, he seemed to be quite aware of my colleague Tommy Shaw, and because we actually we did some shows earlier this year in some of the smaller cities of North America with ourselves and Def Leppard, and so he seen most of the show we did in Providence, Rhode Island, and
oh, cool.
He'd come down from Boston, and but he seemed to know Tommy's name, and he seemed to know Lawrence's name, but he didn't really seem to know my name. Focus more attention on them, and so I, as much as I have in common with him, which is that we both, although he's got a much, we both have engineering degrees, but I was a C+ student, and I'm sure he was an A+ student, and he's got a whole line of amplifiers that he designed and in fact utilized on the first album, which is that Boston sound, really the Rockman sound. So
amazing sound too, huh? I mean,
yeah. So in the ultimate analysis, he's finally figured out. He's a very introverted, quiet guy, and he's very serious about his performances, and they do extensive long sound checks, and even the sound check's over. The thing I didn't know about Tom Scholz until just before this tour, when I read it first and then I've witnessed it, is that he's an amazing keyboardist on the Hammond organ. I mean, and he does this amazing organ solo, which is, apart from what John Lord does in Hush, which I think is probably the most amazing rock B3 solo I've ever heard. Tom Scholz is right up there, man. That guy can really play the keyboards, but he can really play the guitar too. So I mean, he's brilliant on 2 instruments, which but he spends an awful lot of time practicing both of them, it seems to me. And that, with his introverted nature, means that he and I really have not had a conversation. His wife just seems to be the mouthpiece for the 2 of them, and she's very sweet and very open and friendly enough. So I think that he, although Tom was walking through and I was holding forth for some of the other Boston band members, and I happen to, one of my famous quotes is, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, but everything in but on the other hand, everything in moderation, including moderation. And he walked through for the moderation thing. That he cracked a big smile on that one. So.
Oh. Your recollection is priceless, man. I mean, the way it's great. I love talking to you. It's so cool that it's an insight into what it's like. I'm sure.
Yeah, I like shooting off my mouth, so I guess we got a good little marriage going here, Dave.
No, well, you and the way you tell stuff, it places people in the scene, and it's so different maybe than what people expect, because often it's just not how people think on tours, and so there's no jam that occurs with at the end of the night. He's not on stage with Styx at any point, is he?
No, what reality is that Styx, it's a co-headline tour with Boston, but because they haven't been out in 4 years and we tend to play a lot, we thought, well, let them close the show. And Tom had a notion to put a big production together, and they've typically gone out by themselves with maybe just a local opener. So we just thought, well, if they're comfortable in the closing slot, we don't mind opening the show.
Sure.
It's still co-headline, and we get first crack at the audience. So so quite honestly, there's never been any real interaction like that yet. Tom's really second in command is a guy named Gary Peel, who P-I-H-L, who has been the second guitarist in the band really since Sammy Hagar joined Van Halen, because
Wow.
At that point his guitarist Gary, Tom had become friendly with him when they had done some shows, and So Gary has been Tom's right-hand man. He plays guitar. He's also a technical guy like Tom, and so he works for Tom's company doing other things and stuff on his own too. So he was talking to me one day about, hey, we should really get together and work out something we could jam on. And
I agree. I second that.
Yeah, and so eventually we'll hopefully get around to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that I'm sure fans would dig. And there's another fan thing. When I mentioned to some people that I was going to be talking to you, the number one thing I always think fans think of when coming to Styx and having a chance to get to speak with one of you guys is that, and then this was just asked to me over this past weekend, why is Dennis DeYoung not in the band from your perspective today, if you would answer that for someone, and what is the band or your relationship with him like today?
Dennis DeYoung, I think, is a very talented human being. He's just somebody that I no longer really having a desire to work with. We had spent, years and years waiting around for him in a variety of different situations to finish up with this solo project or that solo project, and then kind of wait and ultimately, when it came time in 1999, there was all these great things that had fallen out of the sky. We had a wonderful reunion tour in '96 where Tommy was back in the band, and Dennis and I were there, and unfortunately John Panazzo was not in good shape, so he wasn't on that tour and eventually passed away that year. But we did one solid year of touring, then another year that was '97 was shortened because he was busy with writing for musical theater. And for anyone that really knows, he also actually did a whole album of
That's right.
Of music that's really not rock. It's like theater music in 1994 called 10 on Broadway. And then '98 we did nothing, and Tommy and I spent the whole year writing, and we got together to make a record, and there was big offers for us to go on the road, and Dennis said he was not physically able to do it. And all of a sudden Adam Sandler's Big Daddy movie comes along, and the show that we had videotaped of our reunion in 1996 was airing all over public television, and Mr. Roboto commercial.
That's right.
We got used in a Volkswagen commercial. And we knew Tommy was going to be mentioned by name in Big Daddy because we'd seen the clip of it. We knew just precisely what was going on because we really had to approve the use of our music in the movie.
Sure.
And there was Come Sail Away was used on South Park. All these things happened in 1999, and we've been sitting around for much of that decade saying, well, certainly for the 2 or 3 years before, what we really need is someone to come along and put our music in a movie and really sort of elevate our career again. And all these other things happened as well. There was a K-Tel or some consolidator that packages songs together. Had something called Monster Ballads, and High Enough by Damn Yankees was shown, and the first Tommy was the second face they showed on this thing. So we were everywhere in 1999, and Dennis chose not to go on the road with us because he said he was not physically up to it. But we felt that we had waited really for almost 15 years for opportunities like that, and we just said, well, we're going to go out without you. Why don't you just come and do the major cities if you're not feeling strong enough to do them all, and we'll just go along like that. And he said no. He didn't want us to do it and wouldn't do it, and so we went on without him. And then he ultimately sued us in court next year over the use of the name, and that was settled out of court. And we own the name, and he doesn't, and we pay him an override on that. And but quite frankly, Dennis and I have been very different creatively and stylistically for the longest time, and he rather than try and find the middle ground where he and I could work together or he and Tommy could work together, he was going to do what he wanted to do. And as an artist, if that's truly what he wanted to do, then I had no problem with that. But that's not what we as a collective in Styx wanted to do. And the real problem was that it was either going to be his way or he wanted it to be no way. And ultimately, when you're being in a band is being on a team, and
has to be more of a group
one
effort.
guy thinks you can't, that he's got to be his way or no way.
Right. It's not.
And everybody else feels the opposite of that. In the United States of America, we left the British rule in 1776 because we were tired of one person telling us as a country that that we couldn't make our own way and do our own thing, and so ultimately we declared our independence.
It's a great metaphor. I like that. That's you've summed it up really well. I mean, that's that's an awesome bit of clarification, and also
really, Styx has always been an incredibly diverse band, and it was the ability to compromise and listen to the other guy to a degree anyway, and go forward. But that spirit of compromise was dead and buried a long time, and he just had to give a little, and we'd probably still be together. But he was inflexible, and you cannot be inflexible in the modern age because the only constant in this whole world is change. Change is going to come, whether you like it or not.
That's right. That's right. Whether you want it to happen or not, sometimes it just creeps up there. Do you when you think of your career at this point, I mean, that's one of the things that's interesting to hear you speak about Dennis now, is just where you're at. And Styx has had a very, very fortunate run of tours in the last several years. Anyone who watches the industry up close would have to say that. And it doesn't mean you guys aren't working hard, but it's been good for you. You've gone out, you've named a bunch of these packages, especially the Def Leppard and Journey, and things just come together for you guys in that way. What do you think the moment was, JY, when you look back that you really said to yourself, because, I mean, you built this thing up and you were not a rock star and you didn't have the platform of success. You were a guy, you had dreams, and, I mean, playing with your late brother Rick, and, I mean, your whole story of the Catalinas, which is on the website in his bio. I encourage people to go to styxworld.com. It's fascinating, your childhood band. When you look at your career now, when do you think you really made it? When did you say to yourself, wow, man, we did it. This was it. I'm going to be in Styx, and this is going to work for some period of time?
Well, I mean, the moment when I look back on and say that I made it was when I got out of being a Chicagoan, when I got out of a taxi cab in the middle of Midtown Manhattan at 57th and 5th, and as soon as I emerged from the cab, someone yelled out Styx. Then I realized that we absolutely had become, successful on a national level. For me personally, that was kind of, when the giant light bulb went on. But, I mean, every career is, a lot of time the progress is, when you're actually making this very slow forward progress, it's imperceptible to you that it's actually happening, and every now and then there's a quantum thing that goes forward, like you finally get a recording contract, you get the first record out there, and you get your first song on the radio, and you actually see that somewhere a song that the band has recorded is maybe climbed the charts, even if it's a small city like Rapid City, South Dakota, or Provo, Utah, as it was in our case with Lady, the first time it was released in 1973, and but ultimately, it took till '75 for WLS in Chicago to realize that song was a hit, and they said, this was overlooked by your record company. We're going to play it once a night until it becomes a national hit, because we think it is one. And sure enough, with the help of the great WLS 50,000 watt clear channel AM top 40 station based in Chicago, we had our first hit song, and then from there, we recognized we were on the wrong record label, because we felt like we went up and down the charts, and the album it was on went up and down the charts, and we were kind of right back where we sat. Hadn't been on a national tour, hadn't done anything. We got rid of our manager, left our record company, and went to A&M Records, and it cost us a lot of time and energy and money to do that, but we just felt we were going nowhere fast, and we had something here, and we proved that, so let's go to A&M, where they can really know how to nurture an artist, and get choices to go other places, but A&M seemed like we felt the warmth and the love there. But I mean, all those things kind of come, and they all seem like things are great, but when 1977, The Grand Illusion was out, and there was some TV show that Bob Pittman, who ultimately went on to, he's done a lot of great things, but I think, anyway, there was like a television show on Friday nights, and they featured Styx nationally, and then there was soon after that I was recognized in Midtown Manhattan, as I said, emerging from a cab, and that's when I sort of knew that, hey, we've done it here.
Of all the celebrities or heroes that you've gotten your photograph with, or you've had the chance to meet, people who either were an inspiration, or even if they weren't, if they were just famous, which is the one you prize the most, or which is the group of pictures or images, memories, basically, that you treasure the most? Because you met a lot of people, dude, and you're a real fan,
Well, I mean, I've met a few people in my time. There's no doubt about that. But somebody like Tommy who lives in Los Angeles, I still sort of I'm reclusive in my own way in Chicago, because for a band that tours, Chicago is the best place to be based, and having been married throughout this whole adventure, it's just a more relaxed place without the showbiz pressures and this, that, and the other thing. And I've met a few people, but ultimately, it's hard to say. I mean, having
how about Beatles members?
Ringo walked past me a couple times, and I could have been introduced to him, but I never sort of went far enough out of my way to make that happen. Eric Clapton actually would have been a guy that I would have liked to have met, and we were at his Crossroads Guitar Festival, because he's somebody that had a profound influence on me after I picked up the guitar.
Sure.
So I've been in the same. I've been within 100 yards of Eric Clapton, and I know he watched me play when we played the Crossroads, or at least he saw me play a little bit. And I never had my photo taken with him. It's really hard to say, because
are any of them up at your house? Is there a room that you've got some of the pictures up? I mean, that's a better way of, because it's I know that you have a killer memory for stuff. So you don't collect. You don't have like images of you with certain people that you.
Well, I don't like the way I look in photographs for the most part. So we don't really do a lot of pictures. Whereas Tommy's got pictures of him and all kinds of different people. I mean, I guess I was looking through here. We had Sam Moore and Billy Preston.
You looked great with them.
And that was kind of a groovy photo. I mean, Jack Black and Kyle, I liked the photo we took with them. That was a cool thing. And Billy Bob Thornton, who is a dear friend of Tommy's at this point, and a guy who was at age 18, was in the audience when we first played Little Rock, Arkansas in 1973.
Oh, wow.
So, we've been close to a lot of different people, and met actually a lot of old-time celebrities in certain settings in Los Angeles. And
not Bo Diddley. Did you meet Bo?
Well, you know what? Now that you mention it,
I know you just did a tribute thing with Coco Taylor, right?
I went to Gainesville, Florida, where Bo was living, and of course we know at the time of this, which is July of 2008, that Bo Diddley left this planet just about a little over a month ago. And but I was fortunate enough, because Bo Diddley, I mean, people read on the website that yes, I did the first vinyl LP I bought was Bo Diddley's A Gunslinger, to to actually physically be in a room and sit next to him at a table and eat my first chitlin. was something that's a day that I'll never forget, and that was March 11th, 2008. So.
Oh wow!
Got to hang out with Bo, and then since he had a stroke at the time, or a little over a year ago, he had a stroke and then a heart attack. I knew that he wasn't. I could sense that it was tough for him, because he couldn't really communicate that well, and he seemed a bit on the anxious side, and was talking about things that maybe nobody really could understand what he was saying, which people will do if they've had a stroke and a heart attack.
Yeah, he'd been through a lot.
But nonetheless, there to know that just to be there, and his family was greatly comforted by me showing up, and his daughter and I become great friends.
And why'd you go? Just to meet? You went to Gainesville specifically to meet him?
Yeah, I mean, I've been actually trying to meet him in earnest, although, for about 4 years, but I, I'm so busy, and it's like, I think my greatest regret that I still talk about on the website is that
Muddy Waters.
I was invited to Muddy Waters' house for a barbecue. Maybe the best blues singer that ever lived. Howlin' Wolf right in there too, but Muddy, to be invited to his house for a barbecue and not be able to go because we had commitments with Styx, and then we get back from the road and Muddy Waters has passed on. These are sad circumstances, but that kind of stuff happens. So.
But Bo, you sort of made right. Is it because you had you had the feeling I got to go and meet this guy while I can?
Well, it was more that the Chicago blues legend Coco Taylor, the Queen of the Blues, had invited me, and called up to see if Styx would headline a concert for them to raise money for her charity, and it was going to be a tribute to Bo because Bo was her dear friend. They go way back to the late '50s, and their kids, kind of grew up together, didn't live too far apart, and what have you, and they were all kind of loosely under the chess umbrella, and they just said, well, we're going to go down there and see if we can't convince Bo to come up here, and we want to go down and see what kind of shape he's in, and we'd like you to come with us because we know you want to meet him. And so they already knew I wanted to meet him, and they sort of held that out for me as some sort of a little carrot in front of the horse kind of a deal to say. And I said, I am there, and so I mean it was a bittersweet moment because he was not his I mean, Bo was at least an amateur boxer, and he was a guy that he took no crap from people, and there's a lot of people that have interviewed him that he came right out and said he felt like he got ripped off, and he felt that he was cheated, and he never got the recognition he deserved. And then on some levels, he was right. I mean, on some levels, every artist feels that way. He was more vocal about it than some, but he was a really strong, self-reliant guy that did some amazing things, and that Keith Richards and Mick Jagger had some great quotes about. Without Bo Diddley, there probably would never been a Rolling Stone. So
that's right. And
I was able to, before the man passed on, to shake his hand, and I do have a private photo of he and I together, which, now that you're saying it, I mean, that's the one. Unfortunately, I can't really display that one.
I know how that goes, dude. I mean,
so, because the family really doesn't want him being pictured in that regard, but it's something that I keep near and dear to myself, and so.
No, that's the answer to that. Is you
got,
and you got to go and hook up with him this year. I mean, that's a real thing right there. I saw John Lee Hooker 1 month before he passed away, so I know what you mean. I mean, it was like he wasn't at the top of his game in any stretch of the way. He didn't play a lot of guitar, but I felt like I was really lucky just to have seen him. So I know what you're talking about with
right.
with Bo. Well, that's a fantastic way to end the interview. I encourage people to go to StyxWorld.com and check out JY is fantastic. I mean, it's just great learning about where you come from as a person, people who love Styx. It's really, this guy has been affected by music from the earliest possible age, comes from a very musical background, and people can catch it on October 9th at the Blaisdell, Ticketmaster.com for tickets for their Honolulu appearance. And please do tell Tommy that I said aloha, and maybe when you guys are in town, I'll get a chance to say hi. It would be a thrill to interview you together if that would ever be possible. But just know I appreciate you taking time for me, JY.
You got it, Dave.
And all the best to you guys. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Be safe. I'll see you when you're here. Aloha.
Excellent. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Aloha, it's JY from the rock band Styx, and you are in excellent hands with our good friend Dave Lawrence. Don't touch that dial.